Hello, everyone. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome on behalf of the KabU team. It's great to be together today for a live KabU Q&A with senior instructor Tony Kosinec. Also, we'd like to extend a special welcome to all our Kabbalah Revealed students. They have received an important email today with their special group's assignment. So friends, please open the email and reach out to your KabU team who is eagerly waiting for you. Wow, that sounds very exciting. As exciting as you get to ask questions about Kabbalah today. Who can ask a question? Anyone who's joined. We have viewers who are from Kabbalah Revealed. They've been studying Kabbalah for some time now. We have long-time students who join us, and we have first-time viewers. So if you'd like to ask a question, just drop it in the chat and we'll pick it up there. Also, the last few broadcasts, we've had simultaneous translation for our Spanish speakers. So we like to highlight that when they do send in their question. So you'll hear that the question is from a Spanish-speaking friend. Also, it's exciting to hear where everyone is joining from today. So if you want to type in just your country or city and state, city and country, we welcome you to do that as well. So we look forward to your questions, Tony. It's always an honor, always a joy and a huge privilege to be doing the Q&As with you. So great to be with you today.
Same for me, and fun to do it with you. Yeah, so this is about the questions that you have about Kabbalah. Everybody has questions about it because there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, and there's a lot of feeling. There's usually either there's complete ignorance of it, or if people have heard about it, they have an emotional response to it. It's considered to be the big one, so to speak, the sort of map of nature and reality, the most inclusive one. And you often hear stories of people who are on a spiritual path, and their teacher says, well, you should learn Kabbalah. So what? I thought I was on this path. It's because it really is the science of the perception of reality. And it has a complete map of the law of nature, and the way in which that law unfolds in every aspect, especially through awareness. Now, before this broadcast, I saw a thing on YouTube by a neuroscientist, and she was saying that there's a strong consensus, a new one, that our intuition and their intuition, neuroscientists' intuition about consciousness arising from complex processing and systems is wrong. That they now feel that and are looking at that it's a much more basic phenomenon, and that consciousness pervades all of nature like gravity does. And everything, they say, includes some kind of background sentience, a felt reality. Now, Kabbalah describes this, and it uses the terminology desire to describe this background primary matter, but it's also the motivating force behind reality. And Kabbalah also tells us that there was only one thing that was ever created. It says that there was a will, a desire to receive, that was created by the desire to bestow. And this relationship is between creature and creator. But the only thing that was created was a desire, a background consciousness, so to speak, something that precedes consciousness. And that thing, that desire, is the whole cosmos and everything that's in it. In other words, that's what you are. We are the will to receive. Reality is the will to receive. So what you are is not your mind, but your need. And consciousness, therefore, if you follow this idea, consciousness and thought has to arise from desire. Desire comes first. You could imagine this as desire as the root of a tree, and thought as its branches and its leaves. And the stronger the root is, the stronger the desire is, the more vibrant the life of the branches and leaves is. Everything that we think comes first from a desire. As soon as we want something, all kinds of thoughts arise designed to help us get that thing that we want. Even the smallest desire will bring a whole bunch of thoughts up, a whole train of thoughts, and it operates like an operating system to fulfill the basic level of existence and reality, which is this desire. So it's not that thought it becomes more and more complex. The background energy, so to speak, of existence already has a kind of base consciousness, but it requires targeted desires to bring up certain aspects of thought. And the creature with the strongest, most intense amount quality of thought is the human being. But this desire that we're after is not just a desire for material things. The most fundamental desire underlying everything is actually the need, the desire for spiritual fulfillment. Everything in existence is moving towards spiritual fulfillment. That is a fulfillment that transcends the separated appearance of things. And this is happening in us all the time through a succession of desires. But this is hidden from us in ways that we really can't grasp now. The only place we really do meet this fundamental force is in the appearance of new gut-level desires in us. And these desires are meant to change our perception of reality, where we are, what we want. And it does this by changing what we consider to be pleasure or fulfillment at each new step in our development or in our evolution. It's not just that the desire grows and the thoughts that fulfill it grow on one particular desire, getting stronger and stronger, like more quantity. No, the quality changes. What changes is what we consider to be pleasure, the thing that we're after, as I said, at each new stage. And nature places this chain of desires in us in order to evolve us to actually want that level of fulfillment, the thing that it wants to give to us as this complete fulfillment. If spirituality, if the thing that all of life is after, every part of nature, but especially focused in human awareness, if it were given to us before we actually had that kind of desire, we wouldn't want it. We would reject it because it would be bitter to us like unripe fruit. It would repel us because it's opposite to us. The fulfillment that it wants to give us is this opposite desire that created us in the beginning, this desire to bestow, to give. So it's qualifying us so that when we do reach this complete fulfillment of reality in our existence, it won't be bitter, but it will be felt by us as sweet and absolute total fulfillment. So that's my answer to the neuroscientists. That's Kabbalah's answer. Mary, let's get on with the questions.
Okay, sure, Tony. The first question comes from Roberto Delgado Base. On the tree of life, at what point does conscience show?
At what point does consciousness show? Well, the tree of life is a whole potential system of the development of humanity and life and all of life. It is a conduit through which all of that ultimate, the connection to our root, and all the light comes down in order to help us evolve through a conscious action from below. It's the only place that we can speak about consciousness, as in terms of Kabbalah, is in the changes that happen in us, in humanity, as we evolve and become similar to those, let's call them divine or higher qualities that are channeled through the tree. We are the bottom sphera. We are Malchut. All awareness happens in Malchut. Everything else is actually the creator. And there's no creature there. There's no consciousness as we think about it. Consciousness really only is our apprehension, our grasp of the difference between us and the quality that created us. That difference and that striving, that conscious aiming, that's the place in which consciousness appears. It's always only in Malchut. Mary?
The next question comes from Verena. How can we acknowledge the fact that there is no one else besides him as we pass through the day? It's such a deep sentence, and it certainly shifts the perspective onto everything.
You know, you can't hold on to it, and we don't grow by continually moving in spirituality from one positive state to the next positive state to the next positive state. A desire is built in us through being pushed back, through being unable to understand, see, remember, even though we want it. That's how a correct desire is built. It happens through the rejections that we feel, through the fact that we lose sight of it. Yeah, none else besides him is the target that we're after, not as an idea, but as a direct sensation that everything that we are and feel and do and want and see is all actually an action of a perfect whole that we are also a part of. And even our striving and desire is also none else besides him. That we really serve this idea, and all of our pleasure and all of the adventure of life is all happening in that field of none else, something that is completely sovereign and holds all pleasure and, you know, in all dimension. You can't remember it, but you can remember that you want to remember it. And the fact that you want this, especially when you don't have it, builds the truth of that desire to the point where one actually enters it as your own state of awareness. Mary?
The next question comes from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Javi. Hi, Tony. I am new to KabU, and I have a question for you.
Hi, Javi.
In the book, Reaching the Higher Worlds, in chapter 21, it says that, quote, we must take the first thing that arises in our hearts and minds from the moment of awakening and link it to the Creator. This is how the obstacles help us to return our thoughts to the Creator, end quote. Could you please explain this phrase to us? Thank you.
This is, amongst the few most important things. They're the things that we see in nature. When you open your eyes, well, let's take it before you open your eyes. Before you open your eyes, we are completely immersed in the dynamic of a fundamental existence. We are not in the separated aspects of the world. We're in a much more clear world of desire, dreams. Uh, as soon as we awaken, all of the separation becomes frozen. It's all strongly manifested. And that should not be a barrier. If to us, we that's not what reality is. Dreams isn't what reality is either. It's the conscious, the ability to see all of this separation as a dynamic of love, a dynamic of giving and adventure. To not allow the onslaught of the physical world when you open your eyes to separate us from the Creator is very important. And it doesn't take much to jump over that wall. If you just wake up unconsciously, you'll be, we slam against that wall, and everything is very materialized and very separated, and it's a tremendous struggle during the day. If we remember at the moment of waking that this is the Creator, and that you don't want to be separated, that you acknowledge, like you thank for reawakening in the world of development and adventure that nature has made, then you will be in contact with it during the day, whether you can remember or not. But you need to acknowledge that is the world you live in is really the Creator's world. And that needs to be a first thought. In other words, it reinforces the idea that intention is more important than your circumstance. What you want out of life is that you want the connection with the Creator. That intention at that first moment is like starting an intention that will go through the day, and no matter what occurs, it will all follow that initial intention. That's what your day will be, whether you recognize it or not. Mary?
Hey, Tony, the next question is from Verena. She had a follow-up question. If we spring from the will to receive, are we all the same in terms of our root, or are there different roots?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not simple. There's a great detail and complexity to how reality is arranged, especially when we first start. It's all from the same fundamental root, but there are the separation is made between us and others and so on, is made to feel and is anchored down into the root of creation, because it's all done for a purpose, and the purpose is to overcome the separation. So you can say this person has a different root of their soul, different sphera, it's a different branch. Ultimately, they all come down to exactly the same root, but there are roots to the particular separation, and how they should be working together harmoniously until they create a wholeness despite the appearance of separation. So it's the ultimate root is a single root. The the separate qualities have their own roots, but they are there so that we don't just revert back to a single unconscious root, but that we proceed forward with all of these, and through our own work in overcoming and unifying, we bring all the separation back into a new conscious root, not one in which we are like a candle flame against the sun, but one in which we come consciously into a wholeness. Can't say more than that because it eludes words.
Hey, Tony, Marissa Aiello, Spanish-speaking viewer, has a question related to that. From Kabbalah, what is meant by consciousness?
It's not a term that's used in Kabbalah. That's why I said that the basic idea has got to do with desire. Desire directed by intention is what you could call consciousness in Kabbalah. Yes, there's a chain of desires that are continually being presented in us and in everything in nature in order to develop us. But you can't just follow the flow of desires as they come. Going with the flow is not conscious. It's not evolutionary. The whole point is that we want to become similar to the force that created us. The force that created us was an intention. The intention created, or it directed, in a sense, this desire, which is the will to receive the cosmos and all that. So in turn, we need to not just take the desires as they come and follow them. That's the sort of basic way, that's our basic nature. It's an unconscious following of pleasure. When we eventually develop the ability to say, for what this desire is for, that changes our perception of reality, and not just our perception of reality, it changes reality. So being conscious means to work with the elemental aspects of nature, desire, the background consciousness of existence, the background beingness, let's say, and add the intention to it so that it's not serving the will to receive, but is doing the same thing that the force that created us is doing. That, you could say, is consciousness. But consciousness is a modern term of science and psychology. You know, Kabbalah, I think, has a more accurate description of that dynamic.
Tony, we have a few questions on desire. The first one comes from the greatest Asa, Spanish-speaking viewer. Why, according to Kabbalah, is desire considered the essence of creation and the motor of all spiritual and material activity?
Well, I've been describing that. I think just about it. My answer to all of these questions so far has been why that is. You wouldn't do anything. Well, consider small motions, okay? Even the smallest motion. Or just notice yourself right now. Are you moving in your chair? You know, are you getting something to drink? Where are you looking on the screen? Are you looking at my nose? Or are you looking at this? The reason you're doing any of those things is because there is a desire for greater comfort or pleasure than what you felt the moment before you made that move. It's completely unconscious, but it's everything that you do, that we do, is guided by this force. Our nature is to always follow the next better fulfillment, pleasure, or to escape discomfort and find comfort. It's the same thing. It's like it's fulfillment. There isn't, so what I'm saying is that there isn't anything that happens that is not completely about desire and a needs fulfillment. Not anything. The question you asked is based exactly on that. And what you'll do after watching this, every moment of your day will be the relationship between a need and its fulfillment. It causes motion. It makes thoughts arise and awareness arise. It easily guides what we find of interest and so on. That's why.
Tony, next, Natalie D is asking, how do we balance the desire to grow both in the material world and the spiritual world? Or how can we make it so they're both in unison? Is there a way to do that?
You don't need to work that out. That the one thing you do need to be careful of is not to, you know, not to get so involved in spirituality. Let's take both sides. Get so involved in spirituality that you neglect necessities, family things, and start acting nuts. Just by getting yourself out of balance that way. Also, you don't want to get so out of balance the other way in just the pursuit of things that are not needs or basic things that care for your family, your well-being and health and all that. You don't want to get these things in the extreme. But if you work on your awareness of the spiritual work, the path, and that is of primary importance to you, everything else also works out. So you really don't need to worry about those two things. They're two realms, and they're arranged one above the other, and they should eventually work in good coordination with each other.
And the next question on desire comes from Gloria Rodriguez, a Spanish speaking viewer. Does the desire to give develop in the person and gradually diminishes the desire to receive?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't just gradually develop. It develops as a result of your effort in the method, and it doesn't diminish the will to receive. It uses it, directs it with a correct intention, which changes the purpose of the will to receive. That the will to receive is not happening then only in order to fulfill myself, but as a result of the addition of an intention to use the will to receive in order to fulfill people around you, the system, the whole system of nature and others as a whole, then it's no longer guiding you. It's not in charge. Your intention to bestow is in charge, and it's managing the will to receive in the same way that the upper forces of nature manage everything below it. So it becomes a kind of a proper relationship, proper wholeness, in which it's no longer the president. It's your army, and the leader in your heart is your intention to bestow.
Okay, Tony, seems like you just answered this question. I'll read it anyway. It comes from Victor. In case the Creator is bestowing to us all the desires that we have, is there a risk that we get spoiled and become more and more egoistic?
Depends on whether you are using an intention or not, or attempting to use intention or not. Yes, it's very possible, even in as we grow spiritually, to take all of the awareness and light and light that is in that growth in order to enhance ourselves, to take that pleasure directly, um, as opposed to using it to just strengthen our ability to get better and better at bestowal. Uh, but it's if you apply the method that you're learning and will learn in more and more detail as you go on in your studies, that's not what's going to happen. You will, though, always be run into the desire to use whatever next step is occurring for yourself. Uh, not to make the kind of corrections and so on that are clearly being asked of us. But that's needed. It's necessary and part of the process. If what you want is to be able to do what the Creator does, to be a will to bestow, then that's the direction you are going to be guided in, and you will be helped with that. And at any point where you are accepting all these things just for, becoming more egoistic, you will feel it. But the key to this whole thing is that it's very hard for us to do that if we're only thinking about and dealing with ourselves. The further you go on in your studies, you'll see that you'll begin to apply this to your relationship with other people, specifically other people who are studying this as well. And that's where this process becomes really clear. It becomes very clear whether you are about to engage for your own benefit or for the well-being of the other person, and the relationship between you and so on. Mary?
Yeah, if you like what you hear today, you find it very interesting, you can actually start your studies. We have a second hour coming up right after this broadcast. So you have the option to join KabU today. Our team will post the links in the chat. And if you want to join KabU, there's an open Q&A with Tony. It's very informal. You can ask follow-up questions. It's a private Zoom, so it's not broadcast publicly. So you're welcome to join us today. We'd love to see you there in the second hour. Also, Tony, wow, what a fascinating list of locations where viewers are tuning in from today. So I'd like to
Yeah,
share.
let's hear that.
It's really amazing. So we have Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Denmark, New Jersey, Costa Rica, the Canaries in Spain, Malaga, Venezuela, Veracruz, Colombia, Argentina, Uruguay, Rotterdam, San Diego, Seattle, South Africa, Germany, the middle of Tennessee in the USA, Wales, UK, sounds like the middle of nowhere, Toronto, South Africa, Monaco, Ohio, India, the Congo in Africa. Wow. Grand Rapids, Michigan, Asheville, North Carolina, Rosarito, Mexico, Netherlands, Minnesota, Florida, Oslo, Norway, Utah, Mexico, Spain, France, LA, British Columbia, Romania, Ohio, Caracas, Venezuela, LA, Johannesburg, South Africa, Soggy, Irving, Texas. I hope the sun comes out. Sincerely, it's like that in my neighborhood. Santa Monica, California, Ireland, Melbourne, and Illinois. Wow, impressive. Thank you so much for sharing your locations. You can add if you haven't so far. I'll read the rest of the list before we end out the broadcast.
That's a lot of places. That's truly all over the world. That's just amazing. It's like a net going all around the world.
Blanket of love. That's what we're here to create, a blanket of
Pull the
love.
blanket of love over.
Okay, so bouncing back to the questions. The next one comes from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Stella Maris Donoso. What a beautiful name. So giving is the same as receiving?
Well, it can be. No, the other way around. Receiving can be giving. Giving, this is interesting. Giving is the same as receiving. No, no. It depends on why you're giving, you know? If we're giving in order to get something out of it, then it's receiving. If we're receiving in order to give, then it's giving. The end.
Okay, next up from Julio Ramirez, Spanish-speaking friend. Can it be said that desire is our natural inclinations towards good and evil?
It is the definition of good and evil. There is no good and evil other than reception, taking or receiving. That is the fundamental root of good and evil in the true sense. However, our perception of good and evil is reversed. We feel that when we are unable to receive or, receive difficulty and so on, as a result of that, that we consider to be evil. I personally am being hurt, or people are not able to receive. And giving in our basic nature is something we truly don't like. But we're not just limited to that. There is an inborn part of the higher world, inborn aspect of a spark of a soul that's there that needs to be developed, which is actually good and giving and is in our heart and is completely kind of obscured by all of the other material desires that we have. But again, and that needs to be developed, but again, good is bestowal and evil is reception. And if you trace any actions that you consider to be one or the other that you see in the world, or you trace them down, you'll see that that's where they began, with those basic qualities.
Tony, next up is another question on desire coming from a Spanish-speaking viewer, La Asa Mayor. What role
Hey,
does
all of our questions are from Spanish speakers, and yet there's people from all over the world. Does everybody speak Spanish these days?
see? Okay, this is from La Asa Mayor. What role does the screen or the Masach play in managing and correcting desires?
Well, the screen is the assertion of an intention. One can't manage a desire unless there is first a basic resistance, the screen. The screen says, wait a minute, I'm not going to take this pleasure this directly and immediately and unconsciously. I'm not just going to go with the flow of desires. Wait. Now, what do I want to do with this desire? It's not as simple as this, but this is fundamentally what the structure of the screen is, trying to take it apart, because this happens so fast. It's like a nuclear interaction reaction. But this is what's happening in that microsecond when a desire is presented. In the first place, before any desire is presented, there needs to be this intention to be able to direct the desire and fulfill the one who's fulfilling me. Basically giving back to the Creator, which means giving to everyone and not taking directly myself. So that at that moment when the desire is presented, there's already a somewhat of a prepared intention. It's not fully activated, but the desire to have one is there. So the light comes in the form of some sort of pleasure, let's call it pleasure, and something in the intention says, wait a minute, I'm not just taking it directly. Okay, now I know what I want to do with it. I see where I'm being challenged with it. I see where I want to take it. No. So that's how the screen is connected with intention. There has to be that momentary halt in the what would you call it, in the interaction, you know, so that it isn't unconscious and there's a conscious element presented into it, and in that conscious moment, then the desire can be directed. That's what a screen is. I won't accept unconsciously the direct pleasure, but I will use it in order to use my will to receive, in order to bestow. Hope that's clear.
The next question is from a viewer on Facebook, Mauricio de Lara Galvao. Would it be correct to say that being conscious involves assuming your real intention that moves you before the act, as well as the emotions that generated that intention? From there, can we redirect ourselves to what we really came to do in this world?
Yes, basically. You've added something in there about the emotions. Mary, can you just read the question one more time?
Sure. Would it be correct to say that being conscious involves assuming your real intention that moves you before the act, as well as the emotions that generated that intention? From there, can we redirect ourselves to what we really came to do in this world?
Okay, so your basic idea of is right, but emotion and desire they're really mingled with each other. The intention, there's only one intention, not that there's a whole bunch of different intentions that a person could have. No. The intention that creates consciousness, that is that a conscious working with the mechanism of nature, is just one, that you want to have the ability to use whatever desire, whatever emotion there is, and despite the emotion, because the emotion could want to be going in the other direction, it could be wanting to fulfill yourself, that no matter what that is, this single intention, which is the same as the intention of the will to bestow that created us, that one will be ready and waiting for any awareness of the light coming towards it, so that it will act in the same way that the light acts. That's called returning light. You know, the light or the pleasure comes towards us. We want to return that light with the exact same intention to fulfill, and that returning light is called Chassidim. You know, it's like kindness. It's called kindness. It's an awareness that is based on a restriction and an intention. The light that comes down in order to fill your need or your vessel gets reflected back in a similar action as the one that's loving you and sending you that light. In that light is where all awareness and enlightenment exists, where our real life exists, in that returning light. That's where that's how the soul is built. That's where it is. It's not in us. It's in that reflected returning light that's a relationship between the divine and the creature. Conscious relationship.
Another question on intention from Spanish-speaking viewer Susana Varela. How can I check that I am acting from the right intention?
It's very, very hard to check. All you have is that you want it to be that way. Right now, there is a point in which you will be able to check, but it will be after you enter spirituality. Before that, all we have to go by is the desire to have that desire to give. And everything depends on that, and it will follow that. And that will be helped. Because for us, for a person at the beginning of the path, that's everything. It's all you have. Everything else is not even you. You know, the conscious part of you, that spark inside of you that's really connected to the upper force, is that desire to have a desire. You don't need to check. You just need to keep at it. You just need not to allow the pushback of the way that the light develops us to turn you off. Just keep wanting it. And again, it's going to push us back because it wants to develop a very intense quality of that need. Otherwise, we can't grow and absorb greater and greater aspects of reality. Our consciousness doesn't change. So we have to be willing to go on that path, be challenged, be pushed back, and have our desire grow and grow and grow and grow until it's so big that it actually changes itself completely, takes in the whole light, but not for itself.
Hola, Ruby. That's a beautiful question from Ruby Sosa Carranza. All these questions have been amazing, by the way. Thank you, friends. We are selfish by nature. So when I think of others to benefit the other, what should be my preparation?
Just that you want to be able to benefit, and you're willing to observe and see what's going on in your heart, to take on the challenge, be brave, be resolute, follow the thing that you really want. You can't really be totally prepared, because when the upper light wants to develop us, and we receive a kind of a pushback or a blow, or we forget, or we feel hurt, or we feel it's not possible, or any of these things, it does it in such a way that you forget everything you ever knew or prepared. Otherwise it wouldn't be real to us. We wouldn't really need it if in the corner of our minds, we were thinking, that's all that is. No, it challenges. It's like full scale challenge. And that means that the challenge is real, the overcoming and the unification within your heart and in your effort is real. And the next stage of awareness is also real. And after this happens, where you were compared to where you are, but you can't see the next state. We never can, and you can never be prepared except to say, I'm not going to quit. I mean, this is on material life, we have that thing built into us. It's called self-preservation. It's the strongest, maybe the strongest desire in the fundamental mechanism of the will to receive. You don't want to die, right? You want to maintain your existence. And that means no matter what happens, I go forward, I try, I make an attempt, I fight myself, I fight back. This is the same thing that is required of us on every level of creation. But it's more sublime, it's sweeter, and it's more emotional and let's say somewhat psychological as we approach the spiritual level. It's the self-preservation of the spiritual spark in us. And that's about doubts. It's not about physical life. It's about spiritual life. So we apply that same thing until it becomes as strong as the physical desire for self-preservation. And that and having the need and not quitting, not giving up your highest, deepest dream, that's the preparation, and that's all you need.
Tony, Shadrach Kakumba has a question.
Finally, not a Spanish speaker.
Everyone's pretending to speak Spanish.
I think so. They're changing their names
question
and everything.
added. Okay, so from Shadrach Kakumba, this is George Shadrach. My question is, what is the highest level that a person studying Kabbalah can reach? And what do we feel and see once there? And finally, how to reach that highest level?
Well, you reach it step by step according to the methodology, and you will be guided through the evolution of your desires and the influence of society, like meaning the books and the connection to the classes and all of that. What it's like, you have to get there. Even if I can't describe that because I'm not at that level, but there, through experiencing different states, the evolution of different states, it's not important to know that. But if I could describe it to you, you wouldn't be able to hear it. You wouldn't have any means of perceiving what that meant. You have to acclimatize yourself to a new world, a new way of thinking, and you have to want that thing, or you can't see it or feel it. There's no point in describing it. In general, it is a perception of the wholeness of everything, the complete interrelatedness and interdependent quality of all things in existence, and your contribution to its existence and well-being. We will be doing the same thing consciously that the Creator does in relation to our feelings and actions and intentions towards all other people and everything else that exists in the system of nature. We're actually already doing that and only serve the Creator and the desire of nature, but we have no connection. We're not aware of it at all. It's completely hidden from us. We think something else entirely is going on. That's the basic state, and you get there by working in the methodology. That's everything that you're going to read, and everything that will be that's said, and all of the sharing and all of that happens is only about that, and that's where you'll get it. All right.
Tony, James Oolabi, viewing on YouTube, wants to know, where do our thoughts come from and where do our desires come from?
The desires come from the Creator. They're placed in us by nature. They're not ours. In other words, they come from a very deep and profound root. They also come to us through the influence of society. That is, things that society says are tasty, desirable. We also feel that. We receive them from, in other words, we get them from our friends, we get them from our family, we do not get them from ourselves. They are a chain of needs that are presented to the heart from a deep unseen level or from a high level, and they're meant to develop us. The thoughts come from, like an operating system, they come from there's a desire, and then there's a strategy that comes up to say, these actions will get me this, the fulfillment of this desire. All thoughts are strategies to get the thing that was placed in the heart. That's it.
Next, Yannick MA.C is asking, what's the difference between this world is in quotation marks, and Earth? And can practicing Kabbalah help us become happy?
Well, this world is your current state, or the shared state of disconnection, and seeing a multiplicity of things instead of seeing and feeling the wholeness. That's basically what this world is. We don't feel the quality of the light. The real pleasure, let's put it this way, the pleasure that we seek in this world, which is an aspect of perception of reality, which also includes the physical earth and all of that, the pleasure we're after here is like, has to do with all of those separated things. The thing that is that is hidden from us and has got to do with the next world, or a higher world, the actual pleasure that we're after and all the physical things that we're after is this light, that everything that happens only happens for the reason of creating us and bringing us to absolute total fulfillment. And all the things that appear to be good and bad, they're all good, and they're all there in order to bring us to the pleasure and the same awareness as what created the world. And that our suffering in some way is completely illusory. And so is our pleasure. The type of pleasure that we're after is also a kind of an illusion, that the only thing that is happening is good. One of the qualities of the Creator is the good that does good. This world, we don't see that. We see good and bad. And we don't understand why things are happening to us. In the spiritual worlds, the next world or the higher worlds, this pleasure that we're after assumes it's more and more of its actual identity. That's the real pleasure we're after in all the imagined pleasures that we experience. And I think with that, we're right at the end, Mary, so we should stop. I want to thank you. Great questions, really good questions, and very much on topic, which I truly appreciate. And I think the people who are listening with you also appreciate that.
I agree, Tony. And before I read a few announcements, there are more locations here, just absolutely amazing today. Nigeria, Pomona, California, Norway, Australia, San Antonio, Texas, Atlico, Mexico, U.S. capital area, Maryland, suburb of Greenbelt, Indianapolis, Indiana, Brazil, Belgrade, Serbia, Peru, Mexico City, France, Illinois, Texas, another friend from France, El Paso, Texas, Belgrade, and someone just added in JP. So thank you, friends. Wow, what as Tony said, created this net around the globe, this blanket of love. So a few announcements that we have. You can join KabU. If you're not already a KabU member, then we invite you to join. You can see the link in the chats. You gain access to several Kabbalah courses from beginners to advanced. You join the world's largest online Kabbalah community, the ability to ask instructors questions in the student forums. That's anytime you have a question, and access to the KabU exclusive weekly webinar. Also, you get access to the next Kabbalah Revealed course with Tony, which starts on December 29th. You can't miss that. You need to attend that course, sign up for Kabbalah Revealed with Tony. He's absolutely phenomenal, amazing, and students that study with him stay the course through the studies and far beyond. You can also support KabU if you find the content valuable and you want to support KabU. You can do it in two ways. You can become a KabU member, or you can make a donation that helps with all of our broadcast. So we appreciate any donations that you might want to give. And we do have that live Q&A session on Zoom coming up a minute ago, right now, following this broadcast. So if you'd like to join KabU and join us, we'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much for all the amazing questions. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks,
Always a
everybody.
pleasure.